Hi, this is Steph with Belladonna Dyes, and today's project is going to be the single color hot hibiscus, and this will be going into the playlist of Dharma's dye swatches. So it looks like this shirt is not turned inside out. So you want to start by smoothing out all the wrinkles, then decide where you want the center of your spiral to be, and then give it a little pinch. And for this project, I'm going to be using the microwave splatter guard and a modified fork. And I got the fork at the dollar store and I bent two of the tines backwards. So I give it a couple of twists, and then with my opposite hand, I actually create the spiral. You don't want to put a lot of tension on the center of your spiral. The tool can cause holes, so that's why I use my opposite hand to make the spiral. And I just go around and around, making all those pleats until I can't go any farther, and then I will hold down the center of the spiral and gently wiggle the fork out. Next, I'm going to secure the spiral by using rubber bands. I prefer to use rubber bands as often as possible, but you could also use kite string if that's what you like. You could even use sinew, but I'm not trying to create white lines. I think rubber bands are just quick, easy. I can wash them off, I can reuse them, whereas kite string I can't, and so on. So rubber bands are where it's at. The downside to using the microwave splatter guard, it doesn't create a really tight spiral, but it does create very nice pleats. So what I like to do is just pull on all of the loose tails, tucking them into the nearest rubber band, and I go around and around as many times as I have to until when I pull on those tails, it just doesn't do anything anymore. I think that's as good and tight as I'm going to get it. So the next step is to create some type of an ice barrier. And for this project, I'm using the silicone cake molds that I got from Amazon. And I have a link for them down below in the description box, along with everything else that I use for tie-dye, so make sure you check that out. And when I place my silicone cake molds, I like to place them in the direction of the spiral. That way it just sort of helps button down all of the loose pieces of fabric. Now it's time for the fun part. We get to add the dye, and this really is my favorite part of tie-dyeing. I love playing in the dye. So this is going to be a single line spiral, so I'm going to add the dye to half of the shirt, and I'm going to make sure that I go through the center of the spiral. Now there's kind of a lot going on with this shirt because it's on a very slight incline, so I have the top of the rack over the top of the tote, and the bottom of the rack down inside the tote. But to create the slight incline, I've elevated it with a little cheap dollar store, like the Betty Crocker round ones. It's just the right height. So I've propped it up, and now I'm adding the dye also where the incline is at the bottom. So that doesn't make sense, right? If we want to see color streaks, it should be at the top. Well, the reason why I'm doing that is, while I'm adding my dye, I have a better chance of not getting it into the white if it's down at the bottom. I hope that makes sense. Next, I'm going to add some soda ash for good measure and then gently spin the project around. That's going to create that incline. And then I'm going to add my ice, and I start down in the white area. That way I don't knock any of the dye loose. And it's recommended that you let your project batch at 70 degrees or higher after the ice melts. So now it's time for the rinse out. And this shirt ended up sitting for like 5 days. I just didn't have a chance to get to it because I was busy trying to get the garden ready. And that's okay. So after 48 hours, soda ash and procion dye are no longer reacting. And then anytime your project dries out, bone dry like this is, it stops. So if you're sitting your projects out in the sun and it dries out in 6 hours, that's it. That's all you get for batching time. So, you don't want your projects to dry out, but in this instance, it didn't dry out till probably 4 days. So it's okay. So you want to start by using cold water to rinse away any soda ash that might still be reacting within the fabric, and in this case, nothing is going on. And then increase your water up to hot and rinse until the water runs clear. From here, I take it to the washing machine and I do 2 hot water cycles using Kirillon, and I do a 3rd and final hot water cycle using Millsoft, and I get both of those from Dharma Trading Company. And then I'll put it in the dryer and I'll iron it, and we'll come back and we'll see the results. Well, here it is, guys. Here's our single line spiral, slight incline ice dye in the single color of hot hibiscus after it's been washed and dried and ironed. And I think the shirt turned out fantastic. It really is a pretty shirt. And hot hibiscus is a beautiful color, but there really isn't much to say about it. I mean, it doesn't really do anything other than just be a gorgeous color. So I'll just ramble about something else for a minute. So when I first started making tie-dye and I would see white in a project, I would feel really down on myself, like I was a failure, like I wasn't getting good saturation. But ever since I started this playlist of the Dharma's dye swatches, where I'm purposely trying to get white in the project, I have such a new appreciation for white, because you can see the color, you can see the contrast, you can see what it does. So I highly recommend that you try making some of these single color ice dyes. Now for hot hibiscus, it stays true. It doesn't break down into all the wild secondary and tertiary colors. And as ice dyers, a lot of times we're looking for that, but sometimes you want a color that's not going to split. And this is one of those. Those light pink tones, those just came because it was diluted. And then right here is the liquid swatch against the ice dye, so you can see what it's capable of. So what do you guys think of hot hibiscus? Please leave me some comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a thumbs up, and click the bell and set it to all. That way you get notified of future uploads. And remember, have fun tie-dyeing.